Yes, okay, Mohammed, I'm listening to you.
Yeah, okay. So as I was stating, like the issue actually occurs when we like want the same type of honesty and we attach it to the people in the church. So human beings cannot actually never have the qualities of God, and never being dishonest is a quality of God.
Come on, what happens? Again, we lost connection. We lost connection again. So you were
Ah,
saying that never being dishonest is a quality of
a
God.
quality of God. Yeah, yeah, I was saying that. And when we think that humans that are actually in the churches or any type of priest, they should never be dishonest. That is actually not possible. And like God didn't even ask people to never be dishonest. He never said like you won't actually do sins. And like dishonesty is obviously a sin. And then
Mm-hmm.
once if we say like uh, we want these people to be honest all the time and then they should never be dishonest, that is kind of like they can never do a sin. And the, you actually have very good points and I understand them, but I would actually want to ask you like all of these things, like let's say religion, priests, churches, etc., they actually have a great base behind them. They actually have a lot of proofs, etc. uh, Obviously they have some issues, but they actually have good quality of let's say proofs to prove their points. So
Mm-hmm.
when we are talking about something that we think, we actually have to prove that point to exist. So let's say I think something doesn't mean that it is right. So to prove that, so like something is supposed to be wrong that we are thinking, unless it is proved otherwise. So when
Mm-hmm.
we start and think about something, and then we think of other things from the perspective of this current thought of ours being the right one, then there's an issue. So I would actually suggest that we kind of like sort that out. Yeah.
Solve it out. What exactly?
Sort.
So,
Yeah.
sort.
So yeah, yeah, sure. So uh, actually, like we have this point right now. So that is actually about the point number two that you said about the creations and God being this and that. But uh, if like the first point is not clear about being like these priests not being honest,
Mm-hmm.
then we can actually proceed to the point number two. And then for point number two, that's how where I would want to start. But if that is not clear, or if you want to add something else, then we can actually stick to the point one.
Yeah,
That's about
right.
honesty. Mhm.
Uh, so that was my idea. You know that
Mhm. Yeah, that is.
uh, the God, how I see it, is it's exists like in everything what have been ever
Mhm.
created. You know, so this
Yeah.
is this reality is created by something. So what we
Mhm.
why we come with the idea of God first of all,
Mhm.
because we exist in some reality. We are at some space. We are on some place, right?
Mhm.
And this works in
Yeah.
this
Right.
specific ways. And then
Mhm.
we start to ask, because we created a lot ourselves in this world. Unlike
Mhm.
animals, we just use from nature. People they
Mhm.
create something for
Mhm.
like for themselves,
Mhm.
and so we start to assume that this world was also somehow created. You know, we're trying to
Mhm. Yeah.
understand what's behind this existence of this world, of this universe.
Mhm.
And at some point religion comes with the idea of one God, which uh, which is this. And
Mhm.
religion comes not actually straight away with the idea of one God. Before that,
Mhm.
religion comes with the idea that there is some group of gods. Each of gods
Mhm.
has its own uh, like qualities, attitudes. It can be sneaky, it can be smart, it
Mm-hmm.
can be horny, it can be powerful, a lot. It can
Mm-hmm.
be smart, like all different, all different stuff. And
Mm-hmm.
when we go to Rome, to Egypt, to ancient, I mean,
Mm-hmm.
Greece, Slavs,
Mm-hmm.
Germans,
Mm-hmm.
Vikings, they all had their own pantheon of gods, like several,
Mm-hmm.
several, several gods. And then at some point, people come
Mm-hmm.
with the idea that there is no many gods. There is
Mm-hmm.
only one God which exists and which created the stuff. And of course, religion comes with explanation which God it is. So it proposes some new vision of God. So before, we don't have like Zeus or Jupiter or Perun, you know. You don't have Valhalla or stuff, but you have one God, and this is one specific God. And
Mm-hmm.
with religion, that was a real like revolution, you know, in understanding
Mm-hmm.
of the world, and that's
Mm-hmm.
why religion took so much place in the lives of people. But right
Mm-hmm.
now we see like further and further that religion is losing its positions, and we
Mm-hmm.
see that religion are losing their influence. That less and less people are interested in religion, even among such highly religious ethnic group as Jews. Jews, they are highly
Mm-hmm.
religious, but you can see that a lot of them more and more like move into regular life, you know. But still, it doesn't. That's the point. That it doesn't mean that God doesn't exist, because right now, if we proceed with only explanation by religion, then in a while, maybe in 1 or 2 generations, religion will come to such a low level of authority that
Mm-hmm.
people will not take them seriously anymore. And together
Mm-hmm.
with the religions, they will not take seriously the God itself. But
Mm-hmm.
the point is that God exists on its own. And
Mm-hmm.
since we want to be real, we want to actually understand what happens
Mm-hmm.
around us, in which world we're
Mm-hmm.
living. And
Mm-hmm.
despite the concept, official concept of Big Bang theory, I still
Mm-hmm.
believe that this theory is really, really corrupted, really flawed, and really weak. And this idea cannot push the idea of God away. So
Mm-hmm.
the idea of that this world was created by God still remains like the major. It's just that
Dominant. Mm-hmm.
existing religions, they for them it's more and more challenging to prove
Mm-hmm.
that only they can explain God. You know, since
Mm-hmm.
we start see actions of God in its everyday in our everyday existence, and
Mm-hmm.
moreover, the main flow of religion and why all religions they are losing their influence is
Mm-hmm.
that each religion creates very specific, very particular form of God. The religion
Mm-hmm.
says only this specific God is the true God. All other gods they are not correct.
Sure. Mm-hmm.
For example, when I was in Moscow, I went to church, and
Mm-hmm.
each like ceremony, they were saying all the same words. That only our church is the only true church, and our religion is the only true religion. That only
Mm-hmm.
Moscovian church is the one true church, and only
Mm-hmm.
Moscovian church has direct connection with God. You know,
Mm-hmm.
that's what I heard there
Yeah. Yeah.
on each like ceremony.
Mm-hmm.
But our idea is from my perspective, if we are in
Mm-hmm.
the world of God already, so
Yeah.
how we can get to like to the God, how we can
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
prove God's existence
Mm-hmm.
for
Yeah. Yeah.
our to let Him in our world.
Yeah.
And I believe that this one is focus, that
Yeah.
people
Okay.
should be focusing more. So
Yeah.
that's what I wanted to
Sure.
say.
Yeah. Okay. So, like you said, atheism is like still 7% in the world, and the only issue with them is that they cannot prove their point that clearly, and then existence of God is pretty dominant. and a lot of people follow different religions, and you also believe that there's only supposed to be one God, that actually like kind of like puts you in the people who Abrahamic religion, they mostly believe there's only one God. So you if we have to talk about it, then I would
Mm-hmm.
suggest that we actually talk within that uh, like boundaries. Okay, now after that, so you actually have a different belief,
Mm-hmm.
just to kind of like give audience the context. So you actually believe that the existence of God, there is a God, and then uh, it doesn't want to be associated with churches, etc. Or maybe people are not the exact right people that should actually be speaking in terms of God because they are not that right. So just to kind of like give context to the audience. Now,
Mm-hmm.
okay, and then you made a lot of points. Like a lot of people say that our way of like pursuing to God or praying to God is correct compared to everybody else, and that is exactly the issue. So if we don't think about these, like how we disqualify atheism is lack of proof, or maybe inconsistencies and then contradictions within their own thinkings, thoughts, etc. And then that's how we should eliminate further in order to kind of like get to a consequence or to a better result. And then when people don't have a connection with God, that's when they create different sects or different organizations that we are right, we are right. So that actually simply means that they are not connected to God directly. And
Right.
then, so like we actually, the world actually have a lot of issues, but what we need to solve, at least in this conversation, would be to kind of like our point of views. So what do you
Well,
think? Mhm. Yeah, sure, if you want to add
I
something.
would like to say that the point here would be to understand practical value of God. So why do
Mhm.
we want this concept
God in the
of
first
God
place.
on the
Okay.
first place? You know,
Yeah,
why
sure,
do we
sure.
need God?
Yeah.
If I
So
have
okay.
money, for example.
Yeah. So yeah. So like, why do we need God? That is actually pretty easy to tell. And then let's say there's a lot of cruelty. There are a lot of different things. And then let's say you don't have power, and then somebody else has power over you, and then he tortures you. And if let's say there is a God and he is honest, as point number one we started, and then
Mm-hmm.
if there's a God, then somebody, let's say, has power over you, and then he's punishing you or torturing you, doing bad things about you, with you, and then if and there is a God, he's honest, he's merciful, etc., etc., and he's honest. Obviously, he does justice, etc. So it won't be, let's say, somebody is being tortured. If we think from that point of view that there is somebody who's watching, then we obviously would want, let's say you are being beaten by somebody, and the
Mm-hmm.
only rescue for you would be to think that there he would actually be like brought to justice. He would be punished for what he's doing, and like who would do that? There is actually a lot of corruption, and let's say in India there was actually an accident, and then they feed money to the authority, judges, government,
Mm-hmm.
etc., and then the poor never gets justice, and then that's the issue with the world. And
Right.
the only, yeah, so logically speaking, I'm not even talking about religion. Logically speaking, if somebody created this and then somebody is torturing other one, it only makes sense for this world to end equally on equal terms. Let's say if there is no God, and then one person can actually torture another one, do all those bad things, then this world could not exist. I would say 1 year.
Okay.
So
I was thinking about this idea. So if we have a God, and we assume God to be not only honest, we assume that God wants something good for us, right? So that's why we ask God to help. We ask God for support, for some power, for wisdom. So we still expect God to be caring about us, you know, and that's when we start losing something in this life, when something bad happens to us, when somebody starts to like torture other people or kill other people, then we start to ask that if God is so powerful, and if he is or she is or it is caring about us, so why this is allowed to happen? And what I can say again, I look at all of this from very practical point of view, like from very practical point of view. Since uh, God, you come to concept of the God first of all when you are in such a big troubles in your life, when you are under such a big pressure,
Yeah.
or when challenges are so huge, when you totally understand that you alone will you have no chance to stand it, you know. And that's why you want God to still have idea that something is like supporting you. And then I was thinking about the God, and to understand the God, to understand its attitude, to God's attitude to its life, to our life, you should to look at this world a bit with the eyes of God, not with the eyes of a regular person. So we are creations of God, right? So if we assume that God created all this world, then we assume that it's like logical that we are also creations of God, and God created us in some point. And despite all the power which God has, there is a power which is given only to us, and we are totally free to do whatever we want with this
Yeah.
power. So, and that's basically the point of this game, wherein this concept of devil also come, that we have a power to act upon our own will, and quite often people start to use this energy, this own will for their personal benefit or amusement of for some like cruelty. And the point of God is that, as we can see it from evolution, which is one of the proofs of God's existence, evolution. As we told before, we have three proofs: evolution, existence of life, existence of intelligence. These three existences, they prove existence of God. And God allows, because for God, it's all like overconnected. You know, when one person is torturing another person, we see two different creatures, right? We divide them, but for God, it's all one of part of the big experiment, or like whatever. So God allows something to happen to see how it will work. It's the same as, for example, if you would be designing your program or making a car, you want to run some sort of
Yes.
stress test, you know, so that when you push it over the limits, and you see how it can deal, like how car can drive on the high speeds if everything is folded together, you know. And what I see about God and what I see about reality which we have, that reality is very different. It exists in so many forms and shapes, this life and intelligence, and evolution also. It all went in so different ways, in so different like variations, that God doesn't see their how to say it, doesn't make from the beginning, doesn't make any priorities that this is good or this is bad. It just lets things happen, and then upon the reaction, upon the development, already happens like adjustments. So if we will talk about torturing as a whole, that torturing was a really big thing for our past, but we can say already that amount of torturing have fallen like drastically. So still there are people which are ready to torture other people, but this is already, we can say that they are mentally ill, they are mentally broken, because they want to do harm to other like creature in such a perverted manner. But this doesn't say that anything about the God. It only says that a lot of stuff which is happening here is actually created by us, that we are giving some power to
Mhm.
arrange our own lives, you know. And that's what makes me maybe the most depressed about what I see around. I see how
Mhm.
less people are focused on their real lives, and how less people, how little people actually want to do any changes in their life. You know, when to do something new, to make themselves to be a better version of themselves.
Mhm.
They have very little amount of people like that, and
Mhm.
that's what's really sad. You know, so you have the energy to build house, for example, but instead of this, you are scrolling in short videos. You know, no reason. I see people just lying on the street and just scrolling, or
Mhm.
in telephones. You know, so. I don't say that it's something bad or wrong. I just say that this idea of development of that and idea of creating a better version of yourself is not so
Correct.
strong.
Mhm.
And to wrap it up, what's also one of the issues with religions, that religions actually do not promote personal challenges. Religion promotes following some rules, some rituals, speaking some specific words, wearing some specific clothes, going to some specific places,
Mhm.
celebrating some specific days, you know, so living some specific style of life. So God is this religion is all about different stuff. Religion is not about saying to a person, look, people, I see you could do better, so do better, become more focused, become more intelligent, become more honest. This is what we are doing here.
Mhm.
But I don't see that, you know, and that's uh,
Mhm.
very sad, very sad,
Mhm.
since the world we are living is created by the people which are living in this world.
Yeah. Okay.
So
So
yeah.
how many minutes do we have left in the clock?
Uh, We have 8 minutes, so I believe it would be your time, so you can write
Okay.
your points. Yeah,
We have 8 minutes. Okay.
yeah.
Sure. Okay. So let's start. So why do we need like God initially? So the easiest way to explain that would be our existence itself. And let's say we exist, we are born, we actually are not born with our own will. We are born and then we have to die. If we just think about the death itself, then living our life in whatever way is not does not actually make sense. Why do I live when I would have to like die in the end and I won't be there anymore? Like
Mm-hmm.
that's one of the main reasons any person who is logical cannot understand this concept, and that's why atheism is a minor part of current world because it actually does not believe at least in that aspect, and then that is kind of like the biggest confusion that people have. For us to exist and then do for us to be able to do good things in the middle of life and death, we actually need to be assured that in the end we would actually get the result. So that is one of the reasons for God's existence and the existence of the of afterlife. And then okay, number like the biggest one that you made it speaking was that religions actually have this issue. They don't like challenge the person itself in any way. So they just want you to follow certain things, and then if you do that, then you're actually a good Muslim. So the issue with
Mm-hmm.
that is that, yeah. So I actually see. I understand that you have actually read Bible, etc. And like, so the easiest answer for that would be why don't a lot of people follow religion is because of the challenges itself.
Mm-hmm.
Religion itself is a challenge, let me tell you. And then if you read kind of like the life of these people who actually were following the religion at its best, I would suggest that you read a few of them, their biography, etc. and then you would be able to understand what they did is not even thinkable for the people that we have, at least in this generation. So one of the, and then like development, a part of the development. So you are also suggesting that it doesn't support development of somebody's personal growth, etc., or to do some sort of development for the world. And then, so initially, at least a lot of education system, schools, colleges, they were actually built by people who were following religion.
Right.
So initially, they were created by Muslims, the concept of college, etc. And then there were a lot of uh, scholars who actually like proved a lot of points that were actually wrong initially, that were discovered by, let's say, a lot of astronomers, etc. And then there have been religious scholars who wrote 800 books, 800 volumes of books. And then I'm not even talking about the number of pages, like they were huge, 500 pages. Now, speaking at, like, in this generation, nobody in this world has wrote even 100 books. Nobody
Mm-hmm.
writes 100 books. If they write 2 books, 3 books, 4 books. So religion, saying that religion does not support development or it does not do that, that is actually a lack of understanding of the religion. So I would suggest that when the religion was at peak, I would suggest that you read the biography of those people who were actually following the religion correctly at that time. And so, like, uh, when I talk about the religion and why I'm actually not perfect and nobody can be. Why we say that is only because of the challenges. So we have our own personal challenges, and then the religion forces some challenges on us.
Mm-hmm.
So it actually forces, yeah. So let's say a lot of people would actually not believe in Islam because it is challenging. It actually have very strict rules and laws, and then
Mm-hmm.
yeah. So like saying something like it does not support challenges or development is kind of like the very wrong point to start with.
Okay.
Yeah. So I would suggest that you just kind of like have a look about these regions. I have seen that you read the Bible, but you actually need to read about the people who would follow this Bible, Quran, etc. in the
Okay.
early ages.
Uh, so, um, so yeah, when I think about the God, yeah, when I think about the God and why I want the God in my life, the only reason I can bring for myself, it's that God, the idea of God, concept of God, it's sort of sets you free, you know, since we tend to think about self as we are somehow very, very important, like very important, each personally, and we humanity as in total, we consider ourselves something to be very, very, very important, you know. From my perspective, which we have in this such a limitless universe around us, which we can avoid, we can totally assume existence of other civilizations, intelligent civilizations. So we are not the only ones, the only creatures in the universe which possess intelligence, you know. And from this perspective, we are, for the God, one of the way of the intelligence, and uh, and that's and that's how it can be like can be seen, you know. And when you go, so what's the point with the, or like with the God? When you go with the God, when you go with the God, you understand how less your personal issues, your personal challenges actually mean for the sake of everything, and you get yourself free from this, you know, because people chained to this, or you succeed or you fail, you know, and nobody wants to fail, everybody wants to succeed, and it makes you want to be important, you know, and then when you succeed, you show, look, I succeeded, and everybody is running around you, especially when you have a lot of money, right, and influence. But actually doesn't set you free. It's sets you in some kind of prison. But what sets you free? Okay, what sets you free is understanding how less you mean, how less you mean. Because life existed before you, life will exist after you. You come here for some very small period of time. You can try to do here something, or you can just exist as a vegetable. Let's say it's up to the choice of everyone. And maybe what I was trying to say that too many people they choose to live as a vegetable rather to try themselves to go over their limits, to go somewhere like forward, to look around and change something around their lives, you know, and still to understand that all this exists because of God and for the sake of God, and we exist here also because of God and for the sake of God, and that's it. It's very simple idea, and uh, again, to make it practical, when you become free, you start to focus. So it's losing a bit my point, but still, I just want to this one to be heard that focus of people is very important thing if you want to achieve something in this life. If people are not focused and if you pay attention to stuff which has no value to your life, then you will never succeed. You will never achieve anything in your life.
Yeah. Okay.
So basically,
Yeah.
that's it.
Yeah. So I actually understand that. Let's wrap this up finally. So I
Mm-hmm.
understand your point, and I understand now, if more clearly, uh, when you talk about your own personal experience and like thinking about God
Mm-hmm.
itself, and what we are seeing right now, the issues in the world, crime, etc. It only happens mostly because of lack of religion. And one more other thing that I want to point out is that you said like our own personal struggles are very less compared to God, compared to like the great theme of God, etc. That is actually quite demotivating view. And if we do something good, then at least for us it is very big thing that we are doing, because everything else that is happening in the world, let's say somebody is having more struggles, etc., they don't mean that much to us compared to what we are doing, and thinking like we don't mean much is actually very demotivating view. And that is, in most religions, that is not something that they teach you.
Mm-hmm.
Your own struggles, they are going to get you into, let's say, in a great position in the hereafter. So that is actually not a very minor thing. And like on that point I would actually wrap this I want to wrap this up. So anything else I want to add? Yeah. So I would suggest like I've seen that you have read a lot, uh, and you have actually just read about religion, and you have read about Christianity. I would suggest that you read about Muslims and the life of Muslims and the developments that the Muslim did,
Mm-hmm.
etc. And then I think that would actually put you into a great position. And like we might think something, and let's say I think about, I actually have some thinking about God, and I think, oh, this is the right point, or this is how I feel. Then for a single person to kind of, a single person can never be able to build or find a religion or the whole idea of a God alone. It is impossible. Yeah. So we can never be correct about this whole idea, whatever we build. We are not as intelligent. And so for that, I would suggest like whatever actually aligns with your thoughts at least closely, because every everything would not align, because you cannot be perfect thinker about
Right.
everything. So I guess on that point we should wrap this up.
Yeah. Okay. I understood. I will just add a short note that uh, I make decisions about this world, looking on the people who live in this world. So when I come in different countries, I see different nations. I see how these people live, and I was to many countries in the world, and that's why I make my decisions about religions. not based on what's written in the books or what's this religion thinks about itself, but about how the people who follow this religion live. And this is the only one, and it's the most important how to say characteristic, like
Yeah,
feature,
okay.
which allows me to make a decision. So you come to the place, you see people, followers of this religion, they live like that. If you
Yeah,
want to live the same way, then you follow this religion.
yeah,
But again,
you're right.
yeah, but and to finalize, that's the point, that religion is a thing in itself. It's not about God, it's about people and following rules. But
Yeah,
God,
yeah,
it's totally on its own.
yeah.
That's
So your point,
this thing.
what you just said, is actually a point that a lot of people do, and there is actually very quite common quote about it: is that religion is perfect and people are not. There has
Mhm.
never been a religion ever in this world that people were perfect. Maybe when the prophet was alive, let's say, the messenger, the person who actually brought the religion or to the eyes of the people was there, then at that time people were at the peak. And then as time eventually grows again and again, and people can never be perfect. So if let's say people were perfect, then this world doesn't mean anything. Okay, so these are the perfect people, then we just need to follow them. This is not how this world works.
Not
So
follow, become like them. Not follow, become like them.
oh yeah, 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 exactly like that. And then
That's the
so
idea.
yeah, the religion is perfect, but people are not perfect, and this is not possible theoretically, logically, and like how human are built. We actually run away from struggle. Why would we do a good thing? And then for people to be able to do exactly what the religion tells, they actually need to follow in it very strongly. And then there are people there that are actually doing that. But I guess we are actually running out of time, and I actually have a meeting. So let's
Okay.
continue this maybe next Sunday or
Uh,
something.
I believe we said enough. I see your position, you see my position. So thank you for your time, thank you for your attention,
Yeah, you do.
Mahmoud, and have a great day today.
Yeah, you do.
Let
Have a good
Allah
one.
be with you. Bye.